Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? Let's get to the games. Let's recap where we're at against the spread. Sean, I went 1-3 last week, so I'm at 31-28 on the year. You also went 1-3 last week, so you are 32-27. So you weren't able to gain anything on me, but you stay that game ahead. Just a rough week all around.
I can say it's a good thing we didn't count that Dallas Philly game.
Yeah, I thought about putting that in after the fact, but I did say on air, so people would have checked the receipt on me. So, yeah, we got the 6-9. Now remember, I'm making the big four based on like importance to the week. So people are going to look at the fact that I have both NFC East matchups in the pick'ems this week because there's a lot riding on them. There's not a lot of riding on a lot of games in week 17, but we start 1:00 on Sunday afternoon in the Meadowlands. It is the 6-9 Dallas Cowboys. They're a 3-point road favorite at the 5-10 New York Giants. The over/under 45 on this one. This game is on Fox. And here's the deal: the winner of this game still needs Washington to lose, but you can't win the division and make it to the playoffs if you can't win. I look at these two teams, and I don't know what the quarterback situation is in New York. I look at the receivers are banged up, running backs are banged up, the defense is kind of banged up. The Cowboys, regardless of playing some poor teams here down the stretch, they're playing another one on Sunday. The Cowboys have been playing pretty darn good football on both sides of the ball. They've given up some points, but their offense is absolutely clicking. So I have no reason to think, despite just them screwing me over. But I think the Cowboys win this game. They cover the 3 points. They put themselves in the position to potentially win the NFC East. And I'll go over because the Cowboys, the way that offense, they might score 40 points themselves.
Yeah, it's hard to try to sell anything. I think the big test is going to be in the Giants secondary. It's going to be what those receivers are able to do because Dallas has two really good ones, one pretty darn good one. And I think that that's going to be the test. Now, the good news for the Giants is their pass rush isn't bad. The Giants as a whole, for where their record is, and it's been kind of spotty, but when the defense has arrived, it's been very effective against inferior teams. And the good news is you're playing against the NFC East here, so good chance it's an inferior team. And I think that I think from the quarterback standpoint, I think even though Andy Dalton's more proven in the league, I think Daniel Jones has a lot more upside on good days because he doesn't have those three receivers. But the Cowboys secondary is more suspect, if not just as. So I think it's kind of all these little tiny mini battles. Both running games are extremely mediocre, and a lot of that has to do with injuries on one side and the other not really having an offensive line. So I don't really see that be the deciding factor. But what I will say is this: the Giants are at home, F Dallas, and I'm going to take the New York Giants to not only cover but win this game. I think Daniel Jones bounces back. I think the Giants bounce back. I think they've looked like the better of these two teams over the second half of the season, and I'm going to take them to kind of prove that here this week and have a chance to hope for a Washington loss. So give me the Giants and the over, I guess. Who cares?
Then we go to the AFC North. It is the Mason Rudolph quarterbacked Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 12-3. They travel to the Cleveland Browns, coming fresh off their loss to the New York Jets. They're 10-5. They are now a 9.5-point favorite. I originally had this around 6, but I double checked it when the announcement today that Mason Rudolph is going to start.
Cleveland by 10.
For the Steelers, I have 9.5. If 43 is your over under, this one's Sunday at 1:00. on CBS. The Browns, a couple weeks ago, we're talking possible division championship. The Steelers were slipping. The Browns were starting to click. Eyes got on Baker and company, and man, they started to become the Browns real quick, didn't they? They're losing to the Jets. And here's the thing: like, I know people are going to make the argument about the fact that you had, your entire receiving core missing because of the COVID contact. You still had Nick Chubb. You still had Kareem Hunt. You still had your 3 starting tight ends. If you can't beat the New York Jets with those weapons, those receivers probably weren't going to make the difference anyway. Because I saw Baker Mayfield throw a lot of poor passes that no matter you could have Jerry Rice in his prime out there, he wouldn't have made some of those catches. So I still think Cleveland win this game. I mean, 9.5 feels really big, but I think Cleveland knows this is a spot they have to. They have to. Because if they lose, they might not even make the playoffs. So I think Cleveland, they're at home. I think people are allowed at games in Ohio. I can't remember. Probably they're governor's big time Republican guys. So I think there's people there.
I would imagine so. Yes.
So I'm going to go Cleveland. I'm still going to go Cleveland. I'm still going to go plus the 9.5. I don't feel confident. Definitely not going to get anywhere near a lock on this. But I think Cleveland's going to correct whatever mistake it's been the last 2 weeks. Over. Sure.
The spread is extremely high for a lock, especially for somebody that has no faith in Baker Mayfield ever. Will Baker Mayfield have days where he looks like a Hall of Fame quarterback? Yes. Should one of those days have been last week? Also, yes. Just, man, I would call it unpredictable, but I predicted it.
There's also days where
it stinks.
I would like to point out that not only did I predict that the Browns are no good, I also predicted that the Jets would not have the number 1 pick. It was in a ludicrous theoretical how does it happen, and I called the wrong 2 Jets wins, but I got them, and the Jaguars have proven me correct. So, Trevor Lawrence, you're welcome. Anyway, in this game,
with the first pick in the NFL draft.
That one you can lock up.
That's a lock.
By the way, Mason Rudolph's stats coming into this game on the year: 3 of 4 for 9 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. So having a stellar year. That's actually probably the best his stats have looked.
Yeah, definitely his best. Has anybody bounced the helmet off his head yet this year?
I don't think Mason Rudolph. The Steelers have never shown me anything to say they're going to win with a backup quarterback. Roethlisberger doesn't want them drafting the heir apparent. They apparently are going to just go with that. So they keep having all these scrub guys. I think the Browns need to win because if they lose, like you said, I don't see right now it's the Colts. It could end up being the Titans right on their butts. But either way, one of them is going to catch them. And right now, the only thing keeping them in the playoffs is the fact that the NFL expanded the playoffs. So they're sitting right there at the last wild card right now as tiebreakers fall. So give me the Browns, I guess, to cover just because I don't I don't see this as a lock at all. I could easily see this being close because it's the Browns, but it shouldn't be. And give me – you said over?
I went over, yeah.
I'll take the under.
All right, so you have Cleveland as well.
Cleveland under.
All right, then we go to a battle in the NFC North. It is a game that the Chicago Bears need. I think if they win, they're in. If they lose, I think they can still get in. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, Sean, but I think the Bears, if they win, they're in. It is the 12-3 Green Bay Packers, 5.5-point road favorite at 8-7 Chicago, who's playing the best they've played all year, probably in a couple of years. 50.5 is your over/under. This one at 425 on Fox. I look at this situation as well, where you have a Packers team that by obviously the Packers are a much better football team than the Chicago Bears. The Packers don't have a whole lot to gain, I don't think, with maybe the first round bye. The Packers are locked. They're settled in. This game is more important to the Chicago Bears. So I don't even know if the Bears necessarily win this game, but I think they're going to cover the 5.5. I have Chicago covering the 5.5. I think they can win this game. They have been playing a little bit better as of late, maybe a product of some crappy opponents. But I like the Bears in this one. I'll go under, though, because if you're going to beat the Packers, you need to find a way to slow down Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and whoever the hell they're running the football. So you have to find a way to do that. That's the only way you're going to find success. So I got the Bears plus.
Yeah, I'm trying to look if the Packers definitely clinched home field. There are two teams right behind them with one less win. I'm not seeing anything on there that they clinched that. Maybe not. But you're right. The Packers are an elite team. The Bears can still get in. They're currently sitting same as the Browns. They're in the 7th playoff position, or the last wild card rather, hanging in there. Only the Cardinals are tied with them right now on the outside looking in. So they're watching the Cardinals Rams very closely while they're playing, just in case. But the Packers have some things to play for. Devontae Adams is on the verge of some records. I know he's trying to do. You got guys like A.J. Dillon that people have been telling him he's kind of a bust draft pick, and you're going to have some guys. I don't think you're going to see a lot of Aaron Jones if he does start, just because of his history of being in and out and the fact that you already have a Jamal Williams that's been hurt. So I think the Packers may rest some spot guys, but for the most part, you're not going to let the Bears. Your goal is you never let a team walk in. So if anything, your division rival has a chance to make the playoffs. You could potentially prevent that from happening. And it's a team that knows you real well, and as bad as they are and as good as you are, you probably would end up having to play them. So you try to eliminate them now. So this essentially becomes a pre-playoff game. I like the Packers to absolutely obliterate the Chicago Bears.
I looked it up. The Packers beat the Saints. So it must be that if the Packers would end up tied with Seattle, and Jesus, that just seems ridiculous. But Seattle would
Seattle
be,
and Jesus.
Seattle and Jesus would be the number one.
I mean, the only way they need to. Seattle would have to bring Jesus along.
Yes, to be and they would be the number one seed.
To be honest, in a head-to-head matchup, I feel like that's pretty accurate. I feel like if Seattle went to Green Bay, they would need to bring Jesus.
Probably. It just seems ridiculous that Seattle,
or at least the old Russell Wilson, wherever he went, you could bring him. It's close enough to Jesus. I felt the old Russell Wilson could walk on water and still throw a deep ball.
Possibly.
By the way, give me the Packers in the over. I love my man Nick Foles. They've chosen Mitch Trubisky. There's apparently only one eye. It's just Trubisky. I always thought it was like Trubisky, or I thought there was at least two eyes. Even though it doesn't look like he ever plays with two eyes. I'm going to go ahead and just say he's going to find a way to, even if it's close, screw this one up. But I'm going to take the Packers to cover. I'm going to take.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? And then we go to the final regular season game in the National Football League's 2020 season. It was flexed into the Sunday night spot. And folks, there's multiple reasons. Number one, money and ratings. Number two, it has to do with the potential scenarios for next week and where other teams play, so that like teams playing each other next week would have as close to equal amount of theoretical.
I didn't think they even had a night game scheduled. It's kind of baffling to me. When they try to finish the season like same time, same day, everything, usually last week you don't get a night game.
There's been a couple of seasons where they haven't. Because
if Washington wins this game and wins the division, then they technically have, and I would if I was them, I'd like cause a major stink. I'd be Ron Rivera, be like, we have 4 less hours to prepare than everybody else, and we need to prepare more than anyone else. We're the worst team getting in.
They could be playing at 10 a.m. on Sunday.
You never know. So yeah, I think it's garbage that we're even playing a night game, but it is what it is. Especially like right at the tail end of my teaching break, I got to go back and teach that Monday morning. Good news is it doesn't matter if we win or lose.
I was going to say, it's not like you have playoffs hanging in the balance, Sean. But it is the 6-9 Washington football team. They are a 1.5-point road favorite at 4-10-1 Philadelphia. 42.5 is your over under. This one, of course, 820 on NBC. Dwayne Haskins released. Alex Smith still questionable at this point with the calf injury. And I think they're going to be proactive with that because it's the bad leg.
Right.
So Chris, is it Weineke is the guy? Winky. Not Meineke, the car parts guy. Who is their backup?
Is it Chris Winky? Florida State? How old is that guy?
I don't think it's that one. I don't think it's the guy that was 37 when he played at Florida State. Hold on, let me
He was old when he played in college. He was like,
I know. Let me find it here because
that can't be right.
It sounds like him, but it's not actually him. Taylor Heineke from Old Dominion. He's in his 4th year. He came in.
We got some immediate candidacy for fantasy relevant touchdowns.
Yeah, because he came in. He was 12-19 for 137 and a touchdown on Sunday.
Well, that's got to be your guy then.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Jeez.
So, like, if Alex Smith can't go, and again, I think they're going to be proactive. If there's any question about his health, especially because it's the surgically repaired leg,
trending towards, like he was like going to play at one point,
but there's still questions. So, but here's the thing: even if Alex Smith plays, the Washington team, yeah, they have a great pass rush, but I just feel like they've kind of been missing the pass, and maybe getting Haskins out of that locker room is going to prove wonders for them. But the bottom line is the Cowboys have already screwed over what would have been a top 5 draft pick. They're in a position to win the division. At this point, I just say, fuck it, win the division, because here's the deal. You've screwed yourselves over. At least get a playoff game. You can't win a Super Bowl if you don't get in. Not that I think the Cowboys have any chance if they get in. I'm just saying you have no chance if you don't. So at this point, I say it's not even that I want. You know what? I'm not even going to put that bad karma out there. I want the Philadelphia Eagles to win this football game on Sunday. I'm picking them to cover the 1.5. I'm picking them to win this game. And by proxy, I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to be your 2020 NFC East champions. And you can go ahead and you can lock it up.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Well, I wish I was as confident as you are. Let me just say that I think that, in my opinion, that Alex Smith is going to do everything within his power to play in this football game.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that he's going to trend towards playing, and then hope that the Eagles are just the Eagles, and you're winning enough by halftime that you can just sit out the rest. And
or if you're losing enough by halftime.
Yeah, either way, just set it down like you're being pulled from a hockey game as a goalie. Yeah. Anyway, I don't really know what to believe. It looked like Jalen Hurts provided a spark, and that's what I heard so much in the first game and even against Arizona. And then you're like, well, 1 and 2, how big of a spark was it? It's kind of, it's not like you were drawing Green Bay and New Orleans like you did when Carson Wentz was still under, you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like it was a weird transition time going into that New Orleans game. You find a way to win that one. And then it's like, hey, we got this guy. He's doing really great. And then you're like, we're going to lose to the middling, currently out of the playoff Arizona Cardinals. And then a team that if you had just won the game would be in dead last in the NFC East. So I don't know. Come out flying high, start doing well, and then just where was it in the second half? And I was in an argument with another Eagles fan where I was watching the game who just kept telling me it was the defense's fault that Dallas was scoring, so it's defense fault. Well, if you're saying Dallas scoring is a defense fault, that's pretty damn obvious. I was like, if you're saying like, us losing this game right now is because of the defense, I haven't seen a scoring drive in like. I was like, I haven't seen a scoring drive in like 5 drives. Where's that? And he's like, well, it's coming, and it didn't.
You're a goddamn genius.
I know, right? But
yeah, you know when the Eagles lost, Dallas scored more points.
Exactly what
You're a goddamn genius.
Caused that to happen. What I hear you want to, from what I understand, if you don't score more than the other team, you're not going to win very many of those games. So we really struggled there. Bottom line, I got to pick my Eagles. I refuse not to. I've done it this every time we've had it. I've picked them. So let me take them to cover and somehow lose by half a point. I don't know. I'm going to take the under because I don't think either team's going to score very many points. But, man, I mean, if Peterson's like, I'm confident in having this job, I'm like, do you want it? Like, look at the state of the team, the state of the salary cap, and the fact that you have to choose between an up-and-comer like –
he has to win this game to keep his job? Or do you think the decision's been made either way internally?
I don't see what this game changes. So I'm not sure – like, I mean, unless ownership's reaching out and be like, show us you can win a game or you're gone. Like, that would be like they would have to let him know ahead of time and be like, this is your tryout. Like, show us everything that the offense could look like. Everybody's healthy, at least from a weapon standpoint.
Right.
I don't care if it, and you're like, well, there's not a lot of protection. Yeah, but now we put the kid in who you tell me can get out of trouble. So prove it. Win some games. Now, I don't know about Fletcher Cox's status, but that was a huge part of that Dallas loss.
I agree.
That changes the whole dynamic of that defense, especially when everybody behind him is already banged up and you have no safety help that's healthy either. That does not help things.
Not when you have CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper.
Yeah, it doesn't help much. You got to be able to get the pressure, and you got to be able to stop rushes up the middle, and it just wasn't it was a perfect storm of problems. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do going forward. I don't know who the quarterback of the future is. Some people are still really sold on Jalen Hurts. Maybe he is the quarterback of the future, but maybe not right away. Like, I don't know what's in store. I hope
future doesn't mean now necessarily.
I just don't know, especially if you go out and lose this game and you're 1-4. That winning percentage is a lot smaller than Carson Wentz's.
Sure.
Against lesser opponents, because 2 of them were in your own division. I don't know. I don't even know what to believe on any of that. But I'll deal with that in the offseason. Right now, just give me the Eagles and the under, and we'll ride into the sunset and hopefully hold you off.
Perfect. All right, Sean. And before we close out, we need to hit the fantasy irrelevant touchdown of the week. We may have already spoiled it, but let's hear who some of the nominations are.
Well, it was an interesting week all around. And before I get to honorable mention, I got to say I always love gadget play touchdowns, and I really wanted to include Braxton Berrios getting a touchdown pass from Jamison Crowder. Really wanted to include that in my list.
I have no idea who that is.
First of all, Braxton Berrios is probably one of my 3 favorite names in the NFL.
It's a good one.
Out there. It's pretty dope. But then I started thinking, and I'm like, is Jamison Crowder to Braxton Berrios any more irrelevant than Sam Darnold to Herndon?
No.
Chris Herndon?
Oh, no.
Every Jets touchdown in that game was fantasy irrelevant, so I can't count. It didn't even make it.
If you were still playing, and you have to take into it too, if you're playing in a fantasy championship,
no one's playing him unless they're absolutely.
You don't have a Jet.
You shouldn't.
You should. Well, you shouldn't.
Maybe Jamison Crowder, and unfortunately, that's what hurt that touchdown. Is that Jamison Crowder is probably the startable Jet, and in a stretch or an emergency scenario, maybe Denzel Mims, and you were hoping for a speed wide receiver type. That's it. There's nobody else you're playing. But yeah, no, we had a couple honorable mentions this week. Going to give a handout first of all to Des Bryant, who has scored his 2nd touchdown of the NFL year. Going to throw that out there. We had a Drew Lock rushing touchdown. James Conner, I'm counting as fantasy irrelevant honorable mention just because I didn't even know he was going to play in the game, and then he shows up at the goal line and vultures a touchdown from the one guy that started Benny Snell and had no points and was just like, at least get me the 6. And they're like, James Conner's got it. We got this.
Oh, Spadudios.
And I'm going to give another one to A.J. Dillon. I don't think he was super irrelevant because there was an injury to Jamal Williams, but looked real good as a fill-in change of pace guy.
Sure did.
In the snow. 30-yard run and a 7-yard run. But let's get to my official list. As we get to my full-on honorable mention was Brandon Allen of the Cincinnati Bengals throwing a touchdown pass of 8 yards to Drew Sample.
Who?
Yeah, nobody clapped in Cincinnati either. So that's your honorable mention. Third place, I think the rest of mine they are not all rushing touchdowns, so I will take that back. Third place comes from the Vikings. Big chance for folks in the finals to get some touchdowns out of they're shooting for those Dalvin Cook touchdowns, trying to fight their way through a fantasy final. And who gets the 4-yard touchdown run? Mike Boone.
Hinga-dinga-durgan.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. I'm like, Mike Boone. I think it's his second touchdown of the year. He almost won on Irrelevant earlier in the year as well. Second place comes out of the city of Chicago. You think rushing touchdowns? David Montgomery's been hot, but a 3-yard touchdown vulture this week from Artavis Pierce.
Who the hell is this?
I don't think his own mother knows. And number one, and possibly our first repeat champion of Fantasy Irrelevant Touchdown of the Week, Kyle Juszczyk of the San Francisco 49ers with 2 receiving touchdowns from C.J. Beathard. If you started either of those 2 in your fantasy finals, you're in the same boat as the rest of us.
I have no idea who that is.
So, and I look at Juszczyk. Juszczyk is how you say it. Looks like Juszczyk. Juszczyk. Yeah. Went to Harvard.
Wow. Another Harvard guy. Harvard guys is making plays happen this weekend.
It makes sense because I feel like it was him.
They are smarter than all of us.
Because Fitzpatrick's a Harvard guy, and I was trying to remember who he threw to, and I don't think it was Juszczyk. But there was a point in his career on one of the 9 teams that he played for where he threw to a Harvard either fullback or tight end, and it became the first time in an NFL game. Now, Fitzpatrick's been playing for like 40 years, so I'm not sure what year it happened. But it became the first Harvard to Harvard NFL touchdown was thrown by Ryan Fitzpatrick. But here's a Harvard touchdown, 2 of them this week. Fantasy Irrelevance. We got one more week to figure this out.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?